You got questions, I got answers. So let's go ahead and dive into some questions around fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and let me give you some answers to those questions. All right, first up, we have, how do you stay motivated to not give in to delicious but unhealthy meals? First off, I'm going to change that word from motivated to disciplined. Reason why is because motivation is fleeting, especially at the end of the day. You know how that feels. At the end of the day, you've gotten your work done, you're tired, you know you need to be going to sleep, but instead you hear that pantry, that kitchen, it's calling out to you. It's whispering in your ear, hey, come eat. Come get some delicious foods over here. I'm wanting you. I know you want me too. When you hear those whispers, try to quiet them down, all right? Those whispers, aka cravings, are gonna be there. They never die. They just become quieter. Now, one of the things that helps me out the most is not keeping like bullshit foods in my house. If I have to go out and expend more effort and energy to go get those unhealthy snacks or meals, I'm far less likely to getting that. There's been times where I'll open up my refrigerator at like 8:30 at night when I know I should be going to sleep pretty soon, and all I see are like the meals that I have prepared and planned for the upcoming days. I don't see any BS snacks or anything in there, and that's how I have it set up. So one of the best ways to not give in to those things, specifically at home, is to not keep those foods around. Now understand, if you have kids and you have other people there that do have those foods around, label them as not yours. Label them as somebody else's. Those aren't yours. If you had roommates, you wouldn't be eating your roommate's foods, would you? Label those foods, if they're for somebody else in the house, that is for them, not for you. So try to remove the term motivation. Flip it with discipline. Be disciplined around your foods and meals. Now, when it comes to actual meals, this is a different kind of strategy here, but some people call cheat meals. Cheat meals implies that there are foods that are good and foods that are bad. Instead, I don't call them cheat meals. I just call them earned meals. Hey, this is a meal that I've earned because I've eaten really well over the past few days and I've worked out hard, so I earned myself to eat half of a pizza. I earned myself to go ahead and have a brownie. I earned this cookie that I ate today. So when you change your language and you change the way you see it, rather than I'm cheating on my diet, nope, I earned this meal today. So flip that language around. Rather than motivation, disciplined. Rather than cheat meals, meals that you earned. So that's question number one. How do you stay motivated? I don't. I stay disciplined, and I try not to keep that food around me at the house so I can easily grab it. Next question. Are compound movements generally more challenging versus supersets? Or is there a case when supersets are more strategic? Well, we can answer this question a couple different ways. First off, compound movements are movements that require more than one joint. To give you an example, right? Let's say we're doing a push-up. A push-up is a compound movement because you're moving your elbow and shoulder joints. Compared to, let's say, a tricep extension, right, where you're holding onto a cable or rope and you're extending your elbows to work out the back of your arms, that is an isolated movement. That's because only you're moving your elbow joint, so you're working at your tricep. Now, when it comes to supersets are where you pair two exercises together and you do them within quick succession. So you do them with less than 30 seconds of rest between the two. There are many, many, many different ways to doing supersets. If I have a beginner level client, I'm going to have them superset, let's say, a goblet squat with a push-up variation. And I'll do that because one is a lower body exercise, compound movement, the squat, and the other one is a compound upper body exercise. Now I could look at it in two different ways. I could look at it as this is a lower body exercise with a pushing mechanic, and this is a upper body based exercise with another pushing mechanic. So I could pair those two together, and that would be a superset. And what's helpful there is that they can get a little bit more work done in less time with that superset. Now, if somebody's a little more advanced and they want to, let's say, work on their biceps, they want to get stronger, bigger biceps, what I can do is I can superset a compound exercise, let's say a pull-up, with a isolated exercise for their bicep. So I'd give them a dumbbell bicep curl variation to do. That's going to target their bicep muscles because they pre-fatigue it with the pull-up, and they work it even more with the dumbbell curl. There's also ways you can do, let's say, like a density set. A density superset is where you pair two exercises of opposite movements, but in the same part of them. So that could be pairing a row with a pushing variation. So you could do, let's say, a incline chest press with dumbbells, and then immediately afterwards you put your chest on the bench and you do a bench supported dumbbell row. You do that a couple times back to back with a little bit of rest in between, and that would be considered a density set. You could do the same thing with lower body. Let's say I pair a goblet squat with a kettlebell, and then immediately after the goblet squat, you do kettlebell swings. That's a superset that's really going to target your legs. So there are lots of different ways to create supersets using either compound or isolated movements. All right, and we can dig into that question a little bit more. So if you have more questions about supersets and compound movements and how we create them in programs, just let me know, and I'll answer more questions about that. All right, next up, we got a couple of big ones here. So we're going to start with actually a more simple one in the middle here. When strength training, how do I know if the weight I'm gaining on the scale is muscle or fat? Well, a couple different things you could do there, all right? Number one is if you have a scale that checks your body fat percentage and other metrics like your bone density, your muscle mass, if you have that kind of scale, that will give you more of a reading if you are gaining muscle or fat. Because it's telling you, hey, here's your body fat percentage and here's the muscle mass. Now, how accurate are those scales? They're not the most accurate compared to, let's say, an InBody or a DEXA scan. But if you're using the same scale, there will be a noticeable trend in what you're seeing. So if you weigh yourself, let's say, Monday, every single week over the next 8 weeks, you weigh in at the same time, same day, wearing the same clothes. And if you notice that over the last 6 weeks, what the trend is, you'll see whether or not you are gaining muscle, fat, or a combination of both if that scale goes up. We want to look at the averages overall. Another thing you can do is check in, and let's say your weight is going up, but you're noticing, hey, my clothes are fitting better. They're not as tight around, let's say, the midsection. If the clothes are getting tighter around your arms, that's a good sign that, hey, maybe you're not placing fat just around your arms, but you're actually gaining muscle in those areas. So how your clothes fit is another metric. How is your performance? If your weight is going up, but you're also noticing that you're getting stronger, you have more energy, you have a better libido, those are also clear signs that your body is moving in a positive direction. So those are some ways that you could tell, hey, is the weight I'm gaining muscle or fat? If you are gaining fat, you will notice that things are a little more pudgy. You may not have the same amount of strength. You may not have as much energy that you did before. All right. And also one of the best ways to do it is, I know it costs a little bit more money, but taking a better measurement. So using a DEXA scan or an InBody machine every 3 months could be helpful to see, hey, what is actually going on in my body and getting a more accurate measurement. But again, there's nothing wrong with the scales as long as you use the scale regularly and you can see what the trends are with your progress week after week. All right, moving on, let's go ahead and get one more question here. Carb loading before a big exercise day. How much? When to start and what's best? Is this only for marathoners or other big athletic events? Great question. Great question. So let's go ahead and start off with the first one, all right? How much? How much is dependent on the person, all right? If you are bigger, you're gonna need more carbs. If you're smaller, you're gonna need less carbs. So a person that weighs 200 pounds and is really lean, they might need 400 grams of carbs, all right? A person that weighs 115 pounds and is lean probably need 250 grams of carbs. Now, the grams are gonna be a little bit different. It just depends on what your body can handle, all right? When to start and what's best. So the best method for this, to carb load, is to actually deplete your carbs beforehand. So let's say you have an event to do on Saturday. On Saturday, so the event is Saturday at 8 a.m. On Thursday, you're going to want to try to decrease the amount of carbs. Wednesday and Thursday, you're gonna eat less carbs. Allow your body to burn through what's called your glycogen levels. Glycogen is just the word that is used for carbs that are inside your muscle tissue. You wanna deplete those because when you start to eat more, when you're carb loading, your body's gonna hold on to those carbs a little bit better and won't convert as much to fat. So if our race is on 8 a.m. on Saturday, on Wednesday and Thursday, we're gonna start to scale back from those carbs. And then on Friday, that's where we're gonna carb load. Think rice, potatoes, fruits, honey. Those are all really good sources of carbs. Try to avoid things, and if you need to, cereal could also be a good help there as well. Try to avoid things that might cause inflammation, things like beans, pasta. High fibrous foods might be a little bit too much for your body to digest. Fruits are one of the best ways to get it because they also contain water and other vitamins and minerals. Potatoes are also really good. Sweet potatoes. Rice is another great one as well. Also, there are drinks that have lots of carbs in them too that you can drink. Is this for marathoners or other big athletic events? Basically, it's anytime you're planning on doing an event that is over 2 hours in length. So if you're just gonna run a 5K and you can get that done in 30 minutes, you don't need a carb, you have no need to load up your carbs, all right? If you're gonna be running a half marathon or more, yes, it will be beneficial for you to eat some more carbs the day before. If you're doing a marathon, definitely. If you're doing an Ironman or triathlon, definitely. But anything that requires 2 hours of sustained cardio work will be beneficial for you to carb load. And again, best way to carb load is decrease your carbs a couple days before, deplete deplete the glycogen stores in your muscles, replete them by eating a ton of carbs the day before the race. All right, and again, a ton of carbs, that could be anywhere between 300 even up to, let's say, 700 grams of carbs, all right? But again, it depends on what your activity is and how much you weigh, what your size is. All right, there we go. Couple questions. There's the answers for them. Now, if you have any questions at all about fitness, exercise, nutrition, feel free to give me a shout. I'm here to help and answer your questions. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.